Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. The last few sessions, he's been going through some of the Rambam's views on the laws of charity and then bringing us some details from the Shulchan Aruch and his opinions on that. Beautiful information, very useful stuff. So I think he's continuing with that. We were on point 7 last night. Shalom, Rabbi Schwartz. So good to be with you again. I'm going to turn the class over to you, and take it away, sir.
Okay, I just messed up here. We were at paragraph 7. We're starting at paragraph, here it is. Okay, so we're up to paragraph 7, and we've been doing so I'll read it. We feed and clothe the poor of. Oh, sorry. I get excited. Okay, there we go. Are we good now? Okay, let's get this out of the way. Okay. And paragraph 6. So we introduced the idea of community chest versus individual responsibilities, and making an investigation, whether we're entitled or we're obligated to make an investigation, to make sure we don't. The obligation would be because to make sure we don't waste our charity fund money. So we discussed that. Okay, paragraph 7. We feed and clothe the poor of the idol worshiping nations, together with the poor of Israel, in order to preserve harmony. As a pauper who goes from door to door is not entitled to receive a large gift, but we should give him a small gift. And I think I mentioned last night that when I was a young man in Israel, there's a lot of beggars on the street. These are like they're going door to door. They're costing whoever they can find and asking for a gift. So you don't have to inquire. We were talking about inquiring. He was, what do you need, and can you prove it, and so on. No, that's not necessary for these guys. To just give them a small gift and you're done. It is forbidden to turn a pauper away empty-handed, even if as a result you give him only one small cake, it's like a penny or a dime. For it is stated in the verse, "Do not send the pauper away empty-handed." That's a verse in Psalms. So we learned something there. I haven't mentioned this before, but I don't think. But commandments have to come from the Torah, from the first 5 books of Moshe. And if there's anything in an instruction, that one of the mitzvahs, but we can turn to the other books of the Torah for clarification on what terms mean, and what how people conduct themselves with regard to mitzvah. So here's some advice: do not send the pauper away empty-handed, which is really, look, if you don't have anything, you have to. It's not. We're not talking about somebody that has nothing, because then there's no choice. So that's a foregone conclusion that we don't have to explain that to you. You're totally exempt. You have nothing. You're not going to go and rob somebody to get something for the guy or anything ridiculous like that. And if you have nothing and you go to work, then you need it for yourself first. So we're just talking common sense. But you have something. You can't replenish his loss. When really can't afford what he needs, but don't send away empty-handed. So it's advice. Okay, so that's Rambam. We go to see where he got this from, the Gemara. We're going back to Gittin, which is the Talmud that deals with divorces. And there's a Mishnah there. The poor of the heathen may not be prevented from gathering gleanings, forgotten sheaves, on the corner of the field in the interests of peace. So here we go back to when we started this class. I explained that we're starting, it's just, this is paragraph 7, but there's chapter 7. We are in chapter 7 of Rambam's section of gifts to the poor. That's what the whole section is called. And we started at chapter 7. So what's the first 6 chapters in this section? They deal with other mitzvahs regarding the poor. which he just mentioned some. Gleanings, forgotten sheaves on the corner of the field. These are mitzvahs in the Torah that any farmer in Israel who is gathering in his crop has to first, he has to leave over a corner of the field, of every field that he has in case they're disjointed. One corner of the field has to be left over. Don't harvest that crop. Leave it for the poor to come and collect from there. Also, as you're collecting the harvest, if they're gathering up the cut corn, the cut grain or whatever, and things drop from their hands, so leave them on the ground. Their poor will take care of that. And the forgotten sheaves is when they're gathering them, so they tie them into bundles, and they're going to come and get them later. So somebody forgot something, a sheaf, a whole sheaf, in the field. So that's also to be left for the poor. So here he's saying, now the simple meaning is that it's for the poor of Israel. The mitzvah is to give the poor of Israel. So here the Mishnah says, no, also the poor of non-Israel, non-Jews, the heathen, idol worshippers. You can't prevent them. Don't prevent them from that in the interest of peace, which suggests that it's not a mitzvah. It's just to keep the peace. Because if it was, if it's a mitzvah, so you just say because it's a mitzvah. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay. Gittin 61a says, our rabbis have taught, we support the poor of the heathen. Now this again is in the Talmud. The Mishnah was the first iteration of the Talmud. Then it was like very short, very, very concise paragraphs. And then they came and expounded it with pages and pages. So now we're on page 61 of that tractate. Our rabbis have taught we support the poor of the heathen along with the poor of Israel, and visit the sick of the heathen along with the sick of Israel, and bury the poor of the heathen along with the dead of Israel in the interest of peace. So we do a lot of things, just you got to treat people properly. Now we go to a whole different section in the Talmud, Bava Batra, which deals with torts and disputes over money. And here we have a Tana taught. Tana is one of the, from the generation of the Mishnah. There was different epochs, and they had different statuses. So a Tana is higher than the people that are writing the Talmud. So this is more authoritative. If he is a beggar who goes from door to door, we pay no attention to him. That's what one Tana said. A certain man who used to beg from door to door came to Rabbi Papa for money, but he refused him. Said Rabbi Sama, the son of Rabbi Yava, to Rabbi Papa, you do not pay attention to him, no one else will pay attention to him. Is he then to die of hunger? But, replied Rabbi Papa, has it not been taught, if he is a beggar who goes from door to door, we pay no attention to him? He's quoting this guy up here. He replied, we do not listen to his request for a large gift, but we do listen to his request for a small gift. In other words, what this guy meant, he's going from door to door and, say, I need a car, and he's knocking everybody's door, so we don't pay attention to him. You don't have to respond to that kind of petition. But if he's asking for something small, then we do listen to his for a small gift. So Rabbi Papa, you should give this guy something small. Okay. That's the Talmud. That this is where Rambam got his ideas from. Now we go to the next iteration after Rambam, Shulchan Aruch. How did he write this up? So he, in 250, to a beggar who goes from door to door, we do not give a large gift, but only a small one. So he's kind of following this Gemara, but let's compare him with Rambam. That was the last thing the Rambam said in this paragraph, that a guy, or the middle thing, goes from door to door. First he said, what do we do with the idol worshipping nations? We do give them to preserve harmony. So he says, to a beggar goes from door to door, we do not give a large gift, but only a small one. What kind of a beggar is he talking about? What did you say? He doesn't mention that it's particularly an idol worshipping beggar, any beggar. If he's going from door to door, you don't have to give him a large gift, only a small one. For one who is conscious, this is another chapter he's in. For one who is a conscious sinner on any of the mitzvahs of the Torah and has not repented, one is not obligated to sustain him or lend him money. In other words, as far as the mitzvah goes, this is an obligation. If he's not part of our community by his own choices, then you don't have to look after him. The Ramah adds to this, however, we support the poor of the idol worshippers together with the poor of Israel in order to preserve harmony. So he never, interesting that the Shulchan Aruch never raised this issue about non-Jews or idol worshippers, let's say. Ramah had to come around and say, well, we do. We support them, at least for the sake of harmony. So it seems that, and he didn't mention idol worshippers here, so it seems he was concentrating on the mitzvah. And the mitzvah only deals with people who are part of our community. They're active in the mitzvahs. So them you look after. And a beggar going door to door, no matter who he is, you don't have to give him you don't have to replenish his loss, just give him a small one. And it's the Ramah that introduced the idea of preserving, to explain that we should include them in our alms giving for the purpose of maintaining peace and harmony. Because earlier, obviously, I can't show you the whole Rambam, but earlier, he almost near the beginning of his book, he talked about that if you're living amongst people that are evil or corrupt, you should get away from them. Don't deal with them. Don't have anything to do with them. So idol worshippers would seem to qualify for that, but he's saying they're there. By offering this reason, M implies that the nations of this kind would not fulfill the biblical obligation to give charity. He's saying you do it for peace and harmony. You're doing it for peace and harmony. You're not doing it for the mitzvah. So he's saying, look, you've got people around. They're not the recipients of the mitzvah. They're not what the mitzvah is talking about, but they're there. And you have an overriding need to preserve peace and harmony. You don't want them attacking you. You don't want creating a division within the community, within the city, people in arms with each other, or anything like that, God forbid. So you have to include them in your alms giving because they see you're giving to this guy. Why don't you give to that guy? Okay. Now, this would not be true for donations to a righteous non-Jew who is not an idol worshiper. Such donations have already been included by M within the biblical mitzvah, as pointed out in paragraph 1, right when he started. This is evidenced by M's quote of the verse referring to the sojourner in paragraph 1 of this chapter, because he brought a verse talking clearly about a stranger in the community. That would seem to be a non-Jew, a resident stranger. He was entitled to support. Okay, number B. Talmud here does not define what is large or small gift. However, Tosfos, which is a commentary on the side, describes a small gift as something less than a full meal. So guys going around, so you give them something toward, not even a full meal, but give them something. C, the majority of this paragraph is stated in the plural person, undoubtedly referring to the duties upon the community chest. After all, the particular actions or inactions of a private individual rarely reach public awareness. In other words, we're talking about that you do this to preserve peace and harmony. Well, there's all kinds of guys. Everybody's got a chip on their shoulder. That people yell at each other. They have disagreements and so on. So you can't say you're never allowed to shout or act in an unfriendly manner because people do. You're not going to disturb the peace and harmony, but the community as a whole, if they act in a certain way, that could be a problem. So thus, an individual may be able to turn a blind eye to the poor of the idol worshippers without causing undue enmity. However, community organizations always perform before the public eye, and therefore its posture must be appealing to the entire range of its public. In the last sentence of this paragraph, M switches to the singular person. I mean, we must wonder why. What is that again? He said, it is forbidden to turn a proper way empty-handed. even if it's you only give him one small cake, that was all in the singular person case. So a careful reading of the paragraph suggests several questions we might ask with regard to its second half. Having just finished explaining the case of a pauper who is an idol worshiper, why do we immediately turn to the case of a pauper who collects from door to door? What is the connection between the two? Rambam is the one that introduced that juxtaposition. It wasn't in the Talmud. Note that the Shulchan Aruch does not mention the case of an idol worshiper at all, and the Ramah does not discuss the case in relation to a beggar going from the door to door, but rather in relation to the case of a conscious sinner. Furthermore, why is only a small gift necessary? Why should we not be obligated to provide enough to satisfy his needs, according to the negative mitzvah explained in paragraph 2 above? This guy that's going door to door. We said when we started that a guy needs charity, he's got a need. So you can't refuse him. I mean, we're talking where you can't refuse him. So why do you say now I can? I only have to give him a small amount. Finally, why isn't the bill? You don't turn away anybody empty-handed. We have a verse in the Torah that says you can't close your eyes or your hand. So why are we quoting the Psalms? Well, let's quote one from the instruction. So all these questions may be answered if we realize that M is discussing in this paragraph those cases that have the appearance of charity, but are really not biblical mitzvahs. Instead, they are governed by the need to maintain peace and harmony. Thus, while it is the responsibility of community organizations to maintain peaceful coexistence with its neighboring heathens, it is the responsibility of every man to maintain harmony with those who confront him at his front door, Jew and heathen alike. So there's two levels of operation here. Somebody's knocking on your door, he's accosting you personally, so you have to behave in a certain way. It follows that M is communicating to us his awareness that not everyone who begs from door to door stands in real need. And so here I'm going to stop and say, when we were students again in Israel, and so I used to learn, study hall. Everybody's in this huge cavernous hall. Everybody's sitting at a table or at a lectern, and they're talking to their friend. It's like very noisy, but everybody's concentrating on they're learning. They're discussing they're reading these books and discussing what they mean and so on. Upstairs is the women's section. Normally, when Shabbos comes, the women will come, and there's always a separation between the men and women and the Orthodox services. So they have a special place for them upstairs. If you go upstairs during the week, it's it's a lot quieter, and there's different ways to sit. So that's where I used to go. So I was up there every night. One day it rains, so it doesn't bother me. I got a roof over my head, but the paupers on the street can't collect in the rain, so they come in. So they come into the yeshiva, to the study hall. They can't sit in where everybody's learning, so they come up to the women's section, and there's a table. You've got tables there. So the guy takes out his take for the day, and he starts counting it. We're standing around. We start looking. We're turning over. That's a nice sum there. He's not doing too badly. So, and there's like we spoke earlier, there's exposés on BBC, and then every now and then some news channel will follow a guy who's collecting on the street and find out he's got a limo. Yeah. So it's not unheard of. And so Rambam's aware of that. And even if they don't have chauffeur-driven limousines, they can take care of themselves. And that's why he's saying that you don't have to give them a big gift. It's a business. You can stand on the street and you can actually collect enough, because the people are if society's okay and they're kind, then they'll give you a small gifts, and then you'll collect enough for yourself, maybe even more than enough. So they're not real need. Nevertheless, he says, for the sake of peace and harmony, we must offer a gift to each one who does. This gift should be a small one, so as not to squander our resources on non-mitzvahs. Of course, for those who are truly needy, we would still have to provide enough for their needs in accordance with our ability, and that's where the test comes in and the investigation and so on. But just because a guy is asking, there's an idea not to say no. And I guess I didn't write it here, but I think it's also that it's self-serving to ourselves that if somebody's got the gall or the chutzpah or maybe he's pressed that hard that he has to ask, it's not appropriate for us it's not good for our own self-image to say, no, I can't afford it, I can't help you. You have to be a person that's so wealthy, that's so taken care of, that you can help. You don't have to give a lot, but if you give a little, you're setting yourself up as, I've got what I need and I can share. It's a much better attitude to maintain. So we're going on to paragraph 8. To a poor man traveling from place to place, we should not give less than one loaf that is sold for the value of a pundion, a certain denomination those days, during the time, and he's going to define it, during the time when 4 sa'as of wheat, which is a certain measure, sell for a seller, which is another coin. And in brackets, we already defined all these measurements. If the traveler is staying overnight, then we should provide him with a mat to sleep upon, a pillow to place under his head, and oil and beans, which makes it a decent meal. If he stays over the Sabbath, then we should give him food for 3 meals, because there's a tradition to have 3 meals on the Shabbos: oil, beans, fish, and greens. However, if we are familiar with him, then we should provide him according to his station, or that's the minimum for Shabbos. So, for the beggars, for the people that don't have, so at least let them have 3 meals with some oil, with beans, with fish, and greens. Not a feast. But if you know that he's a certain station and he doesn't have, he's maybe got robbed on the road, or maybe they don't carry money because of traveling. It's not like today where we can go to an ATM. So he's in need. So basically, you're going to see that he's in temporary need, and you have a duty to look after that. Okay, so let's see where this comes from. Peah, which is the section dealing with the corner of the field, and that's back in agricultural laws. One must not give the wandering poor man less than a loaf worth of a pandion at a time when 4 sahs of wheat cost 1 selah. That's where the Rabbi gets it. If he spends the night at a place, one must give him the cost of what he needs for a night. If he stays over the Sabbath, he is given food for 3 meals. So Rambam, that's all the Mishnah said. The Rambam got from other places, which I didn't bother quoting. How do you exactly establish what you need for the night? So he put it all into his paragraph. Repeating it in the Shulchan Aruch: to a poor man traveling from place to place, we should not give less than 1 loaf for the pundion or 4 sahs and a selah. They all quote the same, even though by the time they didn't have those coins in his day, in the Shulchan Aruch's day, he wasn't even living. I don't think he was living in Israel. And so they didn't have those coins anymore, but that was the standard. That's what they quoted. So you got to go figure it out. If he's staying overnight, then we should provide him with a mat to sleep on, a pillow placed on his head, and oil and beans. He stays over the Sabbath, then we should give him food for 3 meals: oil, beans, fish, and greens. Lifting the words right out of the Rambam. However, if we are familiar with him, then we should provide him according to his station. Again, right out of the Rambam. Okay, so go to my notes. Am uses the plural person in this paragraph, suggesting a community obligation rather than one falling on an individual. The guy's come to this community. He's traveling from place to place. So who does it? He doesn't even know the people that knock on the door. Who's an on to look after him? So he's using the plural to say that the community trust should have the funds to. This is what happens. You have people traveling. You got to look after them. However, this may be just because this case would be normally fall to the community. The Talmud obligates the same measures using the single person. So it may be that if he actually did knock on the door and it fell to someone, and that person had the needs, he cannot say, go to the community chest. He should look after him. Okay. B, by listing the provisions required by the traveler in each of the several situations, Rambam seems to be defining what is lacking in each of these situations. why didn't M say simply that we must provide the traveler with whatever he is lacking? If in the answer we suppose that M meant to provide it for us a definition of minimum needs, why is the case of a traveler needed? Just saying, this is a minimum needs. All men have the same minimum needs. One plausible explanation might be that M chose the case of a traveler to delineate the minimum requirements because it is the most likely circumstance in which a man might be totally dependent upon the kindness of others. Yeah, you have to rely on the people you're coming to. And people understood that. It is interesting to note that meat is not mentioned in the Sabbath menu, despite the dictum of Basar v'dagim b'chol matamim, which means meat and fish and all kinds of delicacies. That's what you should have on the Sabbath and Shabbos. Nevertheless, more is provided for the Sabbath than for a weekday. Undoubtedly, this is to fulfill the requirement to honor the Sabbath. Assuming that we provide the extra amount to enable the pauper to fulfill his obligation to honor the Sabbath, how does he do so with no sacrifice or action on his part? The whole idea of having more on Shabbos is that you should honor the Shabbos. So if we're providing, we're giving it to us, so he didn't do anything. So he's merely receiving a larger gift. Or is it part of our honoring the Shabbos to provide more to the pauper? So it's our mitzvah. We have to honor the Sabbath by making sure everybody has. Then it is not the mitzvah of charity, but it's another mitzvah. It's mitzvah Shabbos. Perhaps it is the duty of each not prepare more for the Sabbath, but to partake more on the Sabbath, and is therefore our charitable duty to enable the poor to do so. These are questions I had. I didn't find any answers, so I'm just supposing that maybe it's here in the discussion of the mitzvah of charity that mitzvah is so our charitable duty would be to enable they have a need, they have a new need. Shabbos came, and now they have a new need. They have to eat more. They have a duty to consume more. They're traveling. They haven't got their wherewithal. So then it's our duty to provide what they need. They now have a new need. They have to honor Shabbos. That's what I'm getting at. Okay, so yeah,
I'm
good.
good.
Okay, so I'm going to put my place marker here, and we'll start again at paragraph 9, yeah. So that's it. I guess there's an electronic recording of these. And any other questions on from the Facebook crowd or YouTube crowd?
No, we've got a few people on YouTube, and our friend James is on Facebook.
Okay.
Aside from that, no questions though, Rabbi.
Okay.
You know, it seems an awful lot of given. Can't say no in most situations, but I like the clarification of when it's a community responsibility versus an individual. I mean, as somebody who has been excessively leaned upon, like I remember working.
We gave you your umbrella. We gave it right at the beginning. If you don't have ample means, you're done. If you've given more than if you've given your 10%, you've done a fair share. You don't have to go further than that. You can, if you like, you can go up to 20.
But that doesn't stop the asking, right? Or
so that's you have to have the dignity to say, I've done it. This is what I can do. This is what I'm prepared to do, and you'll have to. I mean, people can ask forever. You just have to.
Rabbi, I used to work downtown Hamilton. I worked at a shelter there for 5 years when I was a young man, and I got to know all the street people. And when they found out where I lived, I was managing a small apartment building, just to get a rent break. And the point being, when guys knew where I was, my door, I mean, I couldn't even sleep half the time. I mean, there's always somebody knocking, and I'd empty the freezer or whatever the case was, and they just don't stop coming.
You remind me. You reminded me of a very good friend of mine. friend of mine. He made a lot of money in New York, and he was a single bachelor, never got married, and he decided he's got what he needs. So he sold everything and he went to Israel, and bought himself an apartment there, and he teamed up with a guy from his hometown in Chicago, um, that he wanted to look after the poor. There's a lot of destitute people in Jerusalem and Jerusalem, and he looks after them. They go, they collect money, they go around to all the hotels where the tourists come. They say, and they meet people, people know them, and everything goes to the church. Everybody goes to the port. I went with him once to distribute. I couldn't believe how destitute these people are. But I was with him I stayed by him one time I came to Israel, and 11 o'clock at night, somebody came knocking on his door, and
Yeah, I'm talking 2, 3 in the morning. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
He yelled back. He yelled back. He says, "You got a nerve to come to my door at this hour?" It was 10 or 11. He says, "You come another time." And he wasn't going to deal with it. So, you dedicate yourself, but just because you
How
have
many
a
people would
man,
take advantage of kindness? We
just
got comments here in YouTube at the moment. Kyle says, I used to be homeless, so I have relied on tzedakah before.
like,
And then Guri is saying, it is definitely difficult to continue to give when you feel and most often know that you are being taken advantage of. It is a spiritual struggle for sure. At least thanks, Guri, for understanding
so
the
that's
plight.
the phrase I want to concentrate on. It's not you're being taken advantage of. You have an instruction. The Torah told you that it's good for you to give charity up to a certain amount, and that's what you're good for. And so there's an instruction to do so. And now you can't be taken advantage of. It's an opportunity to do the right thing up to that point, and then you draw the line, and now you've done it. You've done it, and so you just have to now say, and now I can't do it.
No.
I don't have, and that's it. And you don't have to feel bad about it. You don't have to feel bad because that's the instruction. Those are the parameters of the instruction. So you don't have to feel bad about it. That's what I'm trying to impart. That on one hand you have a duty to share, but on the other hand you have a duty to look after yourself. There's a limit. You can set the limit. You got and you don't have to look back. You don't have to look back. God's
Yeah,
looking.
Kyle just retorted. He says, sometimes you have to release the judgment.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So we're coming back tomorrow night, paragraph 9.
Now, Rabbi, because the sun's starting to set later, you're saying your service before this is starting to carry you later. Like, if you need to bump the class a half hour ahead or something, I mean, maybe we can work
maybe
around
we'll
it.
do that might be an 8:30. What might be we can do that
But
starting.
tomorrow we're still on for 9
I
p.m.
can't. I no. There's no need to go that early yet. I don't have a schedule. I got a schedule here that tells me when the payment only goes up to this next week. So wait till I get the new schedule. We'll talk about it. We got time yet.
Okay, so we will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And we hope you're enjoying hearing Rabbi Schwartz talk about the laws of charity. And it's definitely, for me, I like to get it off my chest. I think I need to. You need to have a clean conscience when you give. You want to give from a good place, I think.
Right.
And in order to do so, you don't want to do it out of obligation. You want to do it because it's the right thing to do. And
No, you can do it from obligation. I got to correct you. God instructed me this is what I got to do. Okay, I'm glad to do what God instructed me. God knows best. But um, when I reach the limit, that's it. Uh, uh, Go
yeah.
somewhere else. God's got a whole bunch of people in this room. They got to learn how to help too. Yes, that's another way to look at it.
All right, folks, we're going to sign out for today, and we'll be back tomorrow night with more Zoom Daily with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to a realistic map of meaning. And thanks for my friend Timothy joining us in the Zoom meeting as well tonight, along with our good friend Rabbi. We missed Ronald tonight, but no doubt he'll catch it later. Ronald, we missed you, and we hope to see you soon. Anyways, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye bye.